The Cleveland Browns did the unforgivable. They lost to the Jets off a bye week, and they did it in an ugly fashion at the end of the game. But let me just tell you something right now. Just because they lost that game, that wasn't the first sign that Kevin Stefanski needed to be replaced. That wasn't the first sign that there was trouble in paradise. In this episode of the Ultimate Browns, I give you 3 undeniable reasons why Kevin Stefanski should not be the coach of the Cleveland Browns moving forward. And I'll tell you the time I actually really knew it. I'll tell you the time I got the epiphany and it hit me right in the face. And it's undeniable, people. It is undeniable. We'll come back and talk about it next on this episode of the Ultimate Browns. Welcome to the fastest 30 minutes in all the sports. It's your boy G Bush right here with the Ultimate Browns. We've got a great show planned for you. Listen, I'll tell you why. 3 undeniable reasons why Kevin Stefanski should not be retained as Browns head coach. This is a case of analytics gone bad. We'll talk about what Deep Podesta means in his departure and why that's a sign of bad things to come. Also, it's never been about whether Dylan Gabriel's good or not. It's about control. We'll get to that as well. And plus, we will get to the myth that complacency is the same thing as patience. Before we get to any of that, we let you know that this episode is sponsored by Peloton.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
There's a level of understanding what's the difference between complacency and patience. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you get a person, and Kevin Stefanski is on his 6th year here, the organization in this regime has been 6 years in the building. And sometimes you get to a point where when you're not winning, you start to judge yourself based upon what somebody else didn't do. And what I mean by that is you start to look around, you start to say, well, hey, it's just the Cleveland Browns. It's just the Browns. You know, they haven't won anything. And look, I won the coach of the year. I've been to the playoffs twice, right? I mean, look, I should get the benefit of the doubt. And what you start to do is you start coaching in a complacency stage where it's almost as if you're just trying to tread water and, oh, it's okay if we go every other year. We have a winning year and then we have a little bit of a down year and then we have a winning year. Then we have a little bit of a down year. You start to look across the landscape and start to say, well, okay, well, I could just always tweak and get rid of coordinators. And you look at the amount of coordinators he's gone through, the Van Pelts, the Dorseys, Joe Woods and guys on the defensive side of the football. You look, he's moved on from Prefer. You know what I'm saying? Bubba Ventrone is now a coach in there, and he looks the same. The Browns are still having kick returns, 2 punt and kick returns in a matter of seconds. So when you start to look at why people start to tell you why they should, keep Kevin Stefanski, it doesn't have anything really to do with his body of work. You start to look at what exactly is he doing here? And what way is he actually going about making this team better? And I thought this was very interesting because, you take a look at some of the information that we have out there that's available. Think about it like this. It's not about the way you necessarily how many games you're losing. Yes, your 5 wins in the last couple of years is not acceptable. Jimmy has himself say you can't go 3-14. Well, you just lost a game to the Jets that you should have probably won. But take a look at this stat. This is by the Dogs of Cleveland Browns podcast. What is it like to be a Browns fan? In 2022, the Browns held a 13-point lead over the Jets with less than 2 minutes to play. Since 2001, teams were 2,229-0 in those scenarios. And the Browns still lost. By the way, they were at home. Now, fast forward, 3 years later, under the same regime, the Cleveland Browns have more improbable things happening in the way you lose. Now in 2025, the Browns held the Jets to less than 175 yards and committed 0 turnovers. Since 1950, teams were 225-0 in those scenarios. And guess what? The Browns lost that game to the same terrible Jets teams. And they did it in 2 terrible ways. You see, it's not about you losing. It's the way that you go about losing. And the Cleveland Browns are a historic team that historically take L's at a rate that nobody else does. They lose games in improbable ways that nobody does. And so it ain't about patience and not letting guys go too quickly. In fact, I always argue this. Tell me the coach that the Cleveland Browns let go too fast that went somewhere else and did some great things. The name we always get is Mike Pettin. It's a shame Mike Pettin is not even in the league. We talk about they're going to ruin coaches. You know, we still got people in the national media landscape. God love them. But Dan Orlowski is talking about Brian Daboll should be replaced with Kevin Stefanski. For what? Why? I continue to give you more and more information. Let's take a look at it. Let's figure out if people. Let's figure out if the people in New York feel the same way. This is Eric Slater. Brian Daboll is a talented offensive coach and will go on to be successful offensive coordinator or quarterback coach somewhere else. But he was terrible as a game manager with the Giants. He often had poor luck. I heard the luck thing again. But his teams played scared and had the overall feel of a losing culture. This change was necessary. And the thing that we always hear is the woe is me. The woe is me. Oh, Kevin had bad luck. Oh, Kevin didn't have his offense. Well, Kevin didn't have this, and Kevin didn't have that, and Kevin didn't have this, and Kevin didn't have that. Kevin has been here 6 years. And he ain't have no worse luck than Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll lost Malik Neighbors. He lost Cam Scatterboo. Jackson Dart is in and out of the lineup because he's running around and he got concussions. Their receiving core minus that is not better than what we got. Their receiving core is about the same. Wendell Robinson, Slayton, same guys. But yet and still, Brian Daboll had a better offense. He's a better coordinator. He's had a better track record of success with offenses in college as well as the pros. But somehow the New York Giants find it unacceptable for them to be drafting in the top 3. We're playing with a rookie quarterback who's much more talented than what we had an opportunity to see. Because guess what? By the way, Kevin Stefanski also passed on Jackson Dart and drafted Dylan Gabriel as a top 100 pick. And yet and still, the New York Giants found a way to move on from Brian Daboll. You see, when you are in big cities and major market areas and guys with teams that refuse to have that level of incompetence, they're going to move on quickly and quietly. They're going to continue to keep it pushing. And they're going to turn over another leaf and figure it out. The New York Jets just was like, oh, this ain't working. We got to move on. We moving for everybody. We about to reset, do all this other stuff. And guess what? The New York Jets traded their best 2 football players and you still couldn't beat them. Not because you didn't have the talent, not because you didn't have the wherewithal to make the plays. It's the fact that you guys can continuously beat yourselves in every single possible way. Jumping off sides, defensive holdings, punt returns, kick returns. These are all things that are well within your purview. And at some point in time, as we take the emotion out of it, Kevin Stefanski just has not performed. He hasn't developed. He hasn't gone about and done anything that has had a track record of success. The team that he went to the playoffs with was in COVID. There wasn't crowds in the stadium. The world was different, markedly different. And by the way, he was not the coach that was on the field during that time period. He was at home with COVID and didn't win that football game. The last time we saw Kevin Stefanski was in Houston, Texas, in which D'Amico Ryans called out how inept his playbook was and told his people, stand right there. I know his playbook is so archaic and old and nasty. Stand right there. I guarantee you have a pick six. And guess what happened? They got blew out by D'Amico Ryans and a rookie CJ Stroud. The reality of all this thing is Kevin Stefanski has done a great job of skating this far. The first cardinal sin that he had was trying to tell us and trying to go along with the fact that we were going to tank this year. What level of arrogance do you think you guys have? We just went through 1-31. We just saw you strip it down to the studs because another group of people said we want to be bad to tank for so-and-so and so-and-so. And guess what? We did tank for 1-31, and we got Baker Mayfield, and you guys got rid of him. That was your decision, not mine. You already had Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. You came into with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. You gave those guys away. You didn't re-sign those guys. You had picks in the top 10 with Jed Wills. You missed on those picks. Guys, after a certain period of time, it just comes down to what you're doing. It's not about Shedeur Sanders and whether he's not ready or not. You've proven that you've been here 6 years and you aren't ready. And you aren't ready to take the Cleveland Browns to the next level. You're not ready for it. So instead of me talking about you being ready all the time or whose quarterback is ready, what we're going to talk about is your play on the field. Shedeur Sanders isn't playing. It's time to talk about who's playing. And one of those guys who's playing is Dillon Gabriel. And that is not pretty. When we come back, we'll tell you why it's never been about Dillon Gabriel, his skill set, and why Kevin Stefanski isn't about who's ready and not ready. It's about control. We'll bring that back when we get back right here on The Ultimate Browns. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. Stats promise to make work easier, but now the average company is buried under hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace the mess and disconnected tools with one system designated to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By unifying your employees' teams, the departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos that your software has created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run the entire HR, IT, and finance operation as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get a 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's ripley.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions may apply. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. It's your boy G. Bush right here with the Ultimate Browns. Make sure you are checking out. Make sure you're watching. Hit that like button, subscribe button. We appreciate you over the UCSS channel. Over 75,000 subscribers. We appreciate you. We would not be able to do the work we can without the people and supporters and fans like yourself. Now let's get back to it. Dillon Gabriel is a very interesting case study, because I find myself feeling a little upset, not even upset, but a little sad for Dillon Gabriel. You know why? Because most people want to live out their career, and he's getting an opportunity to live out his career and be a starting quarterback in the league. And most kids growing up who are quarterbacks, this is what they dream of. You know, Dillon Gabriel didn't draft himself. And Dillon Gabriel didn't put himself in a position where now he's being juxtaposed against somebody that's very popular, that's sitting on the bench, that's probably, we know it's probably better than he is. In the words of Sean King, Dylan Gabriel's never been better than Shedeur Sanders. We all knew that. But the problem is this. Once you have a head coach who has decided he is going to go down and he's going to do it his way or the highway, he puts you in a position where he's actually holding his team ransom. Because it's very clear at this moment, very clear, and it's obvious to those that are inside that building, those who've been watching it on the outside, and those who've been covering it very closely. There is a rift, and the rift is growing like the Marianas Trench. I mean, if it wasn't as obvious as it is, as clear as day, I don't know what you're looking at. The fact that he is now on this perch and he refuses to even say Shedeur Sanders' names. He was asked about this today or the other day about Shedeur Sanders and what is his window, how has he looked, what's the ramp up period. I believe Darryl Ryder asked him those questions. And I find it very telling that a head coach who is the head coach of a football team, that means he's the head coach for everybody. That means he's an advocate for everyone on his team, not just the guy he likes. It's everyone. The fact that he can't even say Shedeur Sanders' name is alarming because it shows a level of indifference. It shows a level of frankly, it borderlines on a slight disrespect. I'm going to just be honest with you. When somebody asks you specifically about somebody by name, and then you pivot and then you say, oh, all our young players, all our young players are progressing at a certain level, and it would be bad for me to speculate. The fact that you now can't even say the guy's name, because when you're asked about Dylan Gabriel, you say Dylan Gabriel's name. When you're asked about Quinshon Judkins, you say Quinshon Judkins. When you say Carson Schlesinger, you say their names. You can't. I don't even know the last time I heard you say Shedeur's name. Like it's written all over your face. And at this point, you get into these press conferences and you're not answering no questions. You're not like, I get it. You probably don't want to talk about the backup quarterback, but here's a question that I get too. I don't ever understood why people run around sit here talking about, I can't stand talking about this. You get paid to talk about it. What do you mean? Why would you be upset that you have to mention the backup quarterback? What type of world are we in where you can't mention the backup quarterback's name? And it brings you some sort of anguish. I can't believe that we have to talk about him. First and foremost, you're being disingenuous because you know why we're talking about him. Because we all know that Dylan Gabriel has never been better than Shedeur Sanders. We all understand that Shedeur Sanders is not a regular fifth-round pick. We all understand that the evaluators have always had him higher than Dylan Gabriel. But we had to sit here and act like Dylan Gabriel was great because why? The Cleveland Browns kept pushing it? Because that's what Kevin Stefanski kept pushing? That's because he was willing to die on that hill for? Well, I'm sorry. Some of us aren't willing to do that. And now it's being painfully obvious that this is what it's about. It's about control. And it goes back to my first statement. When you get people that winning is not the number one goal, and by the way, everybody keeps saying this, of course the coaches want to win. Of course the coaches want to win. If they wanted to win, listen, stop being so naive and thinking that we all are naive. You don't think people have biases? You don't think people are going to choose the guy that they think is their guy and they want to see him play? You think people choose the best? You think the best manager at every single corporation is the best candidate? You think the smartest person at the head of a corporation, the CEO, is the most qualified person? You think that you go into an interview and you're interviewing two candidates and the most qualified candidate gets the job? Really? Come on. I shouldn't have to tell you, I shouldn't have to tell you a lesson in human nature. Human nature is we are willing to bend and move and be flexible for what we identify with. It is in our nature. We are tribal at its very core. We are comfortable with like-minded individuals. If you have an affinity to someone, you are going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If you are the person who handpicks somebody, that person is going to get a longer leash, a longer runway. It's the reason why we are here today. The only reason that Dillon Gabriel is continuously able to start and continues to start is because Kevin Stefanski is saying, if we sit Dillon down right now, he's going to end up eventually having less games than Shedeur Sanders played. How does that work? Because what it's admitting is I was wrong in my initial evaluation. I was wrong when I was giving him all the reps. I knew I was wrong after I saw him play, and I continued to run him out to the detriment of the organization and the team. Admitting that is playing Shedeur Sanders more games, and even more than that, admitting that it's going to be evident if he plays well. Because you just told me you would rather play your guy than win. And it's what I've been trying to tell you guys all along. There's 10% of the teams out here trying to win. Most of them are selling you hope. Most of them are selling you a fake bill of goods. Most of them are trying to make the biggest buck that they can get. There's very rare where you see teams that are Dan Campbell and the Lions, they trying to win. But most people is trying to do reindeer games and play these games, right? Because here's the reality. You know how I know it? How is it a quarterback competition? And everything that they've done since you said that quarterback competition has been exactly opposite of what they've done. Thus, going back to my initial thesis statement, there's a rift as wide as the Marianas Trench in the front office. You don't think so? This has it written all over the place. It has it written. It is the easiest day to see. One person was representing Dillon Gabriel and took his stand. Another person was representing Shedeur Sanders and they took a stand. And now there's a vacuum of power because D. Podesta was undercover showing the door. Hey, you might want to go find you another job. Hey, bro, I'm going to give you a common courtesy. To, if you want to get back into the game, I'll give you a nice reference. But you ain't going to be back really like that either. And there's a vacuum of power. Now, one person named Andrew Berry seems to have a nice little vacuum of power right now because he has 3 or 4 players that look good. And the ultimate ace in the sleeve is this. You think they're going to get rid of Andrew Berry if Shedeur Sanders is good? And think about it. How did they guarantee Shedeur Sanders gets the best opportunity to show that he's that guy? Well, he's set up to play the most games out of anybody. By Kenny Pickett being jettisoned, by Joe Flacco being jettisoned in 4 games, and by the fact that Dillon Gabriel is so incompetent at quarterback right now and not it, that they're going to have to get rid of him by the Ravens game. And oh, by the way, Tommy Rees is calling plays, not Kevin Stefanski. You stop me where I've been wrong at. Stop me where I've been wrong at. It ain't never been about Dillon Gabriel and what he going to play like. This has control all over it. And they are fighting for control of who is on the last man on the boat because that Titanic is sinking. And the problem for Kevin Stefanski is it looks like the deck is stacked a little bit. You don't have control of the playbook anymore. You don't have control of basically who gets traded and guys moving in and out, or you would never move from Flacco. And let me tell you this. If Dillon Gabriel comes out here and looks bad against the Ravens, that's all she wrote. That's your final chess piece off the board. The only control you have now is when you call timeouts and the challenge flag. Because Andrew Berry and Haslam's already said, yeah, we're going to be playing Shedeur Sanders. And if that happens and he plays well, it is all she wrote. Now, you can say G. Bush is, the Duke of knee-jerk seems to not be that big of a knee-jerk reaction guy now, do I? When we get back, we're going to tell you This is a bad case of analytics going wrong. And why, when the Cleveland Browns get their next group of people up in here, why they should learn from this lesson. You're listening to G. Bush right here on the Ultimate Browns. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get into the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Give big this year with a Home for the Holidays raffle. You have a chance to win a beautiful new home or cash prize this holiday season and help make the wishes come true for Make-A-Wish kids with critical illnesses. Raffle proceeds benefit Make-A-Wish OKI, which has granted over 22,000 wishes to children facing critical illnesses across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana region since 1983. This year's house is a custom-built ranch by Petros Homes and has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 3-car garage. It also includes amazing features like a great room with vaulted ceilings and extends to the outdoors, an unbelievable kitchen with beautiful finishes and large hidden pantry, a mud room with open lockers and unique pet shower station. One lucky winner will be announced on December 24th. So get your $100 ticket now. Just visit homefortheholidays.org to buy your tickets. That's homefortheholidays.org. Terms and conditions will apply. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. Your boy G. Bush right here with the Ultimate Browns. Make sure you're checking out the Barbershop. Make sure you check out the Barbershop on from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here on the UCSS network. Your boy G. Bush, 9 to 11 on Saturdays. Make sure you guys check that out. And obviously, you know what we do over here, man. Ultimate Browns every single week of Cleveland Browns content. Make sure you subscribe to UCSS network so you get all of the latest content. This should be a cautionary tale for what the Cleveland Browns should be looking at. Here's the cautionary tale. When you are now going to look for your next head coach, there's a couple of things that you need to get. This analytics thing is, life is about the pendulum. Sometimes it swings this way, and then sometimes it swings back the other way. And when you look at the pendulum in terms of what the Cleveland Browns are doing, the analytics pendulum swung too far. Everybody knows about stats, and we all use stats. Stats are used in every, and data and numbers and information have been used since the beginning of time. So it's nothing new. But here's your problem. We've let people infiltrate the game so much where guys don't have any experience or knowledge playing the game. There's no nuts and bolts of the football roots. Some of the core tenets of what football is, what it means, and more than anything, they have taken the relationships and the human relationships and communication out of the building. And the problem is, everybody is operating as if people are robots and they do not have problems, that they don't have issues, that they need to be motivated, that they need to have a level of accountability. That is the major piece when it comes to coaching. And that's a huge part of what coaching is that is devoid at all levels in this organization. When I was in leadership and I had 30 direct reports from, people that were older than me, younger than me, people that, were married, maybe divorced, from all different walks of life. The thing that I quickly understood was anybody can hammer people with numbers. And I could deliver numbers to people and say, hey, your metrics are down. Let's talk about how we get your metrics up, right? But what if the reason their metrics is down has something to do with what they're going through as a person or an individual? What if their metrics are down, and maybe their talk time is up, or maybe we're getting denials, and maybe why their production at work is going down is because of something else outside of it. People need to know that you care about them individually, and that you do care about their individual goals, and that you do care about them as people, but also that you believe in them in the group collectively. And so much now that we're doing is we are now reducing people and people's will, their heart, their integrity, their passion for a number. You just don't look at a receiver and say that receiver is 6'1", this receiver is 6'1". The guy over here, his 40 time is a 10th faster, and we could get him in the 5th round instead of this guy in the 2nd. Did you take into account for the guy's work ethic? Did you take into account the guy's family background? Did you take into account his motivation? What motivates him to get up every single day? Did you interview him correctly? There's no way you could take Anthony Schwartz over Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can't. How was that possible? How could you take a Jed Wills and not take Tristan Wirfs? How is that possible? How is it that you can look at Dylan Gabriel as a top 100 quarterback when obviously, based on his size, his ability, his measurables, that wasn't the case. So the problem with analytics, and a lot of times why the Cleveland Browns are where they are today, is because they believe that they are end all be all smarter than everybody. And when you got a bunch of guys in Ivy League, we've told people in the Ivy League that it is their birthright to run the world. Corporations, judges, the judicial system, the financial markets, sports, entertainment, record labels, Hollywood. We've told them that it is their birthright because they are smart, that they get everything off. So when you question them about anything, they come off as you simple-minded person. Just let us handle it. And how dare you question our leadership and what we're trying to do? Because obviously our plan is so much higher than what you can even comprehend. It's the reason why they can't answer no questions straight. It's the reason why they can't answer no questions. It's the reason why they give you lame questions or answers. This reason they're flippant. The reason they got an attitude half the time, and they cannot be in the same room with people without rubbing them the wrong way. If that's happening to you, can you imagine what they're doing when they're coaching? I mean, heck, the Kansas City Chiefs done won Super Bowls after Super Bowls after Super Bowls. I talked to Darren Smith, and Darren's like, hey, we can watch practice all we want, and we can take film. Guess what? Our guys, our beat reporters, they get to watch people stretch and then come back and ask the questions that they want them to ask, and then they don't even answer that, but they still always feed you propaganda. That's the problem. It ain't analytics. It's the spirit of what analytics stands for. The spirit of analytics means we are just smarter than everybody else. And even though we don't have a track record and we're losing games, we'll tell you we're tanking and you believe it, and why that's good and why we should never get fired. We like this quarterback even though nobody else likes him because we're smarter. Don't question us. Yeah, we'll sit that player down even though he's a better of the two quarterbacks, and we won't even answer a question about what he's doing in practice or what is the timetable. I don't want to speculate. You can get that away for a little bit. You can get that off for a little bit. But after you do that for a long enough period of time, the act wears thin. We start to wake up a little bit that you're just putting a nice smiley face on losing, and you're cashing checks all the way to the bank. I always thought it was funny that coaches' contracts were never divulged. I always thought it was funny that coaching contracts were never out there in the public sphere. You know why? Because they use players' contracts as a way to control the narrative. If a player isn't doing something, it's easy to say, and you make how much money? How much money are you making? So now you could play both sides against the middle. You could use the fans' outrage against the players so that you can skew it in a specific way. The reason why they put it on the front page of the paper. But try to find a salary of a general manager or a head coach and how many years they got. I guarantee you don't find it. That omission is not by chance. It is what they do. There's a reason why Paul DePodesta, he's the chief strategy officer, and you don't know what he does. He never is on record. He's never on camera. There's a reason for that. It's so that you can dodge accountability because you can always play plausible deniability. Well, what does he really do? How do we know he was really the problem? And if Kevin Stefanski only says is we got to be better, how is that taking accountability? That's called deflection. But what really happens, and this is why you can either like me now or discuss this later, but you always gonna have to come around to it. Reality of the situation is, I told you from the beginning, it sounds cute in the offseason to write all the stories and it's pro Browns and pro Stefanski and it's going to be 2-3 years and we're going to get a stadium and our quarterback's in 26 and so-and-so's not ready to play. That's cute. But when the season starts happening and people are using their money and people are showing up to the stadium, that runs thin very quickly because we have television. It's the most popular sport in America. And people are going to see that what you were saying was one big sham. It was a ruse. You never had any intentions of doing. And by the way, we're not going to give you any out cards. I'm not going to say, well, they were tanking. No. You are judged by wins and losses and performance. You can't throw for 200 yards. You refuse to take the quarterback out that we all know is not performing well and was never hit. And you refuse to get your offense together. You handed the playbook over 2 years in a row. This year it won't work because we're still going to be looking at you, Kevin, at the end of the day and say, you're the head guy and the buck stops with you. With that being said, you never know where G. Bush might show up, radio, television, internet. But if you want the fresh cut on sports, I keep the Clippers with me, and I'm always ready to give you that fade. With that being said, we talk about the Browns all the time, but you know what it is. Have a great evening. And no matter how bad they be tripping sometimes, it is always go Browns.